Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Professional Insights brought to you by the National Referral Network, where we bring you expert advice to help you navigate the complexities of the financial world and running your business. And today I'm excited because we're going to talk to Dan Mirgon with Mirgon Consulting. Dan is a certified exit planner. He does consulting. He helps maximize the value of business owners' businesses. And we're going to share some of his expertise on why planning is crucial. What does it mean to maximize the value of business, and how do you sell the business for that higher dollar value? So stay tuned. But before we get going, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We're here every Tuesday. So without any more introduction, let's get this started. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good, Mike. Thank you. Nice day. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely, buddy. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So Dan, let's jump into this just really quickly. Let's just kind of set the table here. Can you explain what exit planning is and why is it crucial for business owners?
Oh, man. It's crucial. Well, let's start with crucial. Whether you're planning to sell your business today, tomorrow, or 30 years from now, if you're running a business that you think of as an asset versus just a paycheck, the value of that business and how it operates today dictates what you get then.
Okay, so let's you and I've talked about this before, but let's just kind of break down the numbers, because most of the business owners, my understanding, most of their wealth is wrapped up into their business. What does that look like in terms of a number?
80 to 90% for most small businesses under 20 million. The owner's future retirement wealth is all tied to that value of the business. And there's a hope that someday this dream price is going to be offered to them so they can go off and sail into the Netherlands or whatever they're doing, right?
Right. And not to scare, but part of this, I saw a commercial the other day, is I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just trying to inform you. So you've got 80 to 90% of an individual's personal wealth wrapped up into a business that they think they're going to sell for like a unicorn price.
Right.
Reality, Dan, how many businesses actually sell?
The numbers are not fun. All these business sales institutes and organizations and associations do the studies every year. And then last year, 82% of the businesses that went up for sale, these are the ones that actually put up a sign or posted an ad, did not sell. That means 18 out of 100 do.
And why is that?
In most cases, if you talk to any business broker or M&A advisor, it's because the business isn't attractive to buyers.
So what does that mean? Like, what are some of the misconceptions that business owners look at, or maybe they're not even understanding, that creates that them being part of that larger number not selling?
The two primary, and there's about 8 or 10 different aspects of that, but the two primary things that hold a business back from getting a reasonable offer is owner centricity, meaning I started this in the garage, I could sell it, I could deliver it, I could go off and get another one done, and I'm still doing that work. I can't delegate because I'm not sure I trust my team, or I'm not sure I can see what they're doing or whatever. So that owner control factor, when the buyer comes in and writes you the check and you walk out the door, the effectiveness of the business walks out the door with you.
So when you go to do a business valuation, Dan, and there's lots of ways to do this. Shark Tank, everybody watches that show. They okay, you want to raise this much money, and then all of a sudden they multiply it and you get a valuation.
Right.
There's valuation on cash flow. And there's all kinds of ways to do a business valuation. But if you're an owner-centric business and you've got this dollar value, how does an owner-centric business affect that dollar value in terms of valuation, or does it?
It does directly, and we've only addressed one of the two questions so far, but on the owner-centric issue, if I'm the buyer and you're the seller and you're doing all the valuable work,
Mm-hmm.
And absent you, somebody else was doing that, I would say, let's say you're worth 5 million bucks. But when I see you as the main driver of everything, the one who's got his fingers in all the decisions and all the progress for the business, and I know that you're going to be gone, I'm discounting that immediately.
Gotcha.
Same thing with recurring revenue, which is the other question you would ask. What are the main things that company buyers need to see before they're going to be comfortable offering you what we're going to call a best-in-class offer? If you can't replicate your business on a regular basis, automate it, subscriptions, recurring revenue comes in that you don't have. If you stop selling this, what happens to your business, right?
And that kind of goes to the saying that we've heard a long time is if you can't go on a 7-day vacation and your business not collapse, you don't have a business.
That's right. You have a hobby or you have a paycheck job.
Okay.
And none of those are bad, but let's not think of a paycheck job, a solopreneur who's just going to run the numbers until he quits and walk away. That's not what people think of in the exit space. They think of a company, and I guess let's just address it this way. Are you a business owner or do you own a business? Because there's two different things. A business owner goes in, runs the show, gets his paycheck, comes back tomorrow and does it again. And it's a good thing, not a bad thing. But if I treat the business as an asset, I'm a little more beyond the hood of the car, down the road kind of thinking. And to be able to say, okay, I have a long-term end game for this thing. I want to position it so that we get that harvest at the end and we can take it off and either leverage it to another company or go off and live in the woods, whatever we want to do, right?
Yep.
But if you don't start planning for that today, the impulse when you go to an association meeting or you hear somebody else who sold their business that's similar to yours in a different location, and you come up with this presumed value, you're painting a false perception for yourself. And the hardest part of my work is to sit down with the owner who's enthusiastic about their baby and tell them their baby's got problems. It's ugly. It's not as pretty as they think it is. I mean, seriously.
It's not a unicorn. You're not selling you're not going to get a 32x multiple on your business.
Now you could, okay. And we've had this conversation with a couple of people that says, look, you think you're worth, let's call it $2 million. We do a little preliminary work and I think they're worth $6 million, but they don't want to invest the few bucks it's going to take and the time. And, they start to bail on the idea of fixing it. And I say, okay, fine. I'll pull a group of people together. We'll buy it for $2 million. We have that done in 30 days. Ready? And they go, wait a minute. What are you going to do with it? I want to turn it into 6 or 8.
Yeah.
No. See, they don't see it from the buyer's perspective. They think about their emotional struggle. They think about how frustrated they are. They can't get control of their people. Human behavior, not only the owner's behavior, but the team's behavior, is probably the leading driver of the frustration that keeps people from having a healthy company. So for the last, I've been in business 47 years. I've started and run 5 companies. I've raised my own capital for my business. I've sold them. I know what we're talking about. In that sense, if you don't make that company a healthy place to work, you don't have healthy customers, you don't have healthy vendors, you don't have a buyer who's going to walk in and go, this place is a mess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So getting into that, because you've mentioned a couple of things, Dan. What are some of the key components of putting an exit plan together?
The first thing is essentially doing a discovery. Where are you today? This is kind of like getting off the bicycle and evaluating the bicycle to determine if it's going to get you where you think it's going to go, or do you need to, rebuild it, strap a motor on it, and power it a different way. very few people feel comfortable, confident that stopping what they're doing is safe, because I haven't delegated, I haven't trained, I haven't trained myself to train them so that I
And
could take that
and
7-day vacation.
isn't that part of the, I mean, I understand you were going through that process, but like in my head, I'm thinking you're not stopping the business. And I understand there's a paradigm with the business that if I take a step back, the business will die. And I understand that a lot of business owners
Right.
have that mindset. And then I guess what I'm thinking about is if the importance of that is that if they take that step back, if they get off the bike for just a second, they don't got to let go of the bike. They just have to step off of it. Then they can see that the oil needs to be on the chain, the
Right.
tires flat, the brakes are bad, right?
It's
So is
about
that kind of
perspective.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're kind of driving at, right? Is to take a step back, look at it for what it is, see where the cracks are at, so then you can make adjustments.
Right. So that discovery session um, kind of is the hardest part, because it, like we said earlier, sorry, dude, your baby's ugly. We
Yeah.
got to figure out how to dress it up and make it work right. So we have to find the holes in the foundation, and we have a lot of tools for that. A lot of it is capturing what they've already got, filling in the pieces that don't fit or are fit incorrectly or are missing.
Mhm.
Okay. And then coming up with a master plan to say, okay, out of this list of 12, 15 items, we've got 3 that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck to get the value and health of the organization headed in the right direction. Patrick Lencioni, one of the big prominent leadership, or I guess he's a management consultant author, wrote The 5 Dysfunctions of the Team and a bunch of
Great
other.
book.
Okay.
Yep.
He wrote a book called The Advantage. And one of the, I guess the main thesis of that book is that you've got to have the smart side of the business. The business, let me just say this way. Business is broken into 2 different categories, the smart side and the healthy side.
Okay.
The smart side is what we learn in the MBA programs and the business schools, and it's about the tax, the legal, the processes, all those systems. But you got to have the healthy side. That's vision, engagement, commitment, accountability, fun. And it's the healthy side of the business that equates to 80% of the success of your business. But we spend all of our time on the tactics over here of the smart side, which are, you got to have them. I'm not saying don't do them, but don't think they're the end all. And too many people went to a business class in college, or they went through, they watched their father do some things, and so they're going to do what their father did. And I got to tell you, folks, I've been in business advising people on business and wealth strategies since 1982. Things have changed like pretty regularly, almost as quickly as software updates, right?
Pretty quickly. Yeah. Things are changing pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so you got to stay current. You got to stay attuned to what's going on, or you become irrelevant.
So Dan, with that, what are some of the key professionals a business owner should be involved with to help this process along?
Without being self-promoting here, I'm going to say you need an exit planner who actually has gone through the curriculum and gotten certified. There's an awful lot of people out there today. Some of them are very good at experience and other things, but without the kind of the smart side of how you do an exit and the people side of how you've experienced it yourself, the healthy side, you've got to have somebody kind of play quarterback for you. So the way I frame this, the business owner is the owner and general manager of the team.
Okay.
They hire me as the, head coach. And when we need legal or accounting or tax or, some of those other things, we hire individual quarterbacks to win those particular games so that the whole team goes to the Super Bowl and wins. So you need insurance people, you need investment people, you need estate planning people, you need, the legal and accounting and all the things that, and you might even need a psychology advisor on how to deal with your management team and the transition. There's all kinds of different professionals that get brought into this mix, but the owner and the exit advisor are the brain trust in a sense.
And how soon, and because you and I've talked about this too, and it kind of blew me away here. How soon or how far out should a business owner start putting these things in place, planning for an exit?
The importance of exit is going to be different for everybody. We know that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of tongue in cheek to say as soon as they start the business, but I don't think that's unwarranted. If you're a budding arts entrepreneur and you've got the great idea, right, and it's the right product in the right time, and you gather the right team, you need to start thinking of this as not just a way to make a paycheck and pay your bills, but you need to think about this in the future. What does it look like down the road if I decide to grow this thing to a certain level and then sell it and do that again with a different, because entrepreneurs get bored, right? We might run 5, 7, 10 years, whatever, and then we're done with this model. Let's go get another model. And you need to be able to say, I've built it from this to this. Now I've got a team of people who help me get it leveraged to the next.
I mean, I think it's critically important to have the end in mind, Dan.
Yeah.
And so when you don't build a car and then put the tires on first, right? Or put the doors on like, oh my gosh, got to put the wiring in the door.
Yeah.
The idea, and I understand that things are going to come along and we're going to make adjustments on a business standpoint, right? But I think in talking and doing these interviews, which is why I love doing these interviews, is that the common thing that we hear, partly is why you guys are part of the National Referral Network, is that you guys believe in building those teams of professionals.
Right.
We don't know when they're going to come into play. And as a business grows, a tax strategy of a startup is different than, say, a company doing 7-8 million in revenue. They're going to need different teammates. But going through this process, Dan, like what are some of the pitfalls and mistakes that you see business owners make in trying to navigate this themselves?
They don't know what they don't know, and what they do know is generally incorrect. And that's a good friend of mine kind of really used a line with me that says, I can tell you the truth, or I can be nice to you, which one you want. Right?
Yep.
That's the ugly truth up front. 5 years ago, when I sold our investment practice in Southern California in 2010 to move here. No, 2000. When they have, how long have we been here? Yeah, 2010.
It gets blurry, doesn't it?
Yeah, kind of a mind meld there. The structure of what we did, it worked. But the dynamics of selling an investment practice in 14 years have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
So to address that issue, what we're doing is when we've done the discovery, we're going through the repair phase, we bring in the M&A or broker people early, and we say, here's the trajectory we're headed. Give us a flavor of what's going on in the market in this particular space, at this particular size, in this particular geography.
Yep.
Because I can do that. I don't want to do that. I want to stay right there with the owner to kind of walk through arm in arm around the shoulder, as it were, this path that you don't get to do over. There's no do-overs in selling a business.
Correct.
There's no practice run. Okay. If you don't get it right, you end up with a less than optimal offer if you get an offer. So number one, you got to be part of the 18%. But number two, half of those people in the 18% that do sell hate their deal a year later. Why? Most of the time it's the terms. The buyer wants you to finance your own buyout.
Oh.
Why would I do that? If I've got excess reserve, money in the business that isn't being used, retained earnings can be, transferred out to the owner in exchange for a loan that they make interest payments for that can be paid back someday out of some other earnings that you've done. And the company still has the same value. You've just traded an asset for a liability with a retainer, right? Or an account receivable.
So Dan, so that brings up an interesting question. How important is it for the business owner to align their personal goals with the business exit? Because like so many business owners have their personal lives wrapped up financially into the business, right?
Right.
Credit cards, bank accounts, they have commingling funds, which could be a whole topic of conversation separating those two.
Right.
But how important is it for the business owner to align their personal financial goals with that exit plan?
It's critical. And in the Exit Planning Institute, where we got our certification, went through their material and curriculum, the idea here is exit planning is not just about the business.
Yep.
It's about your personal wealth capability and your after sale life plan. So that plays out this way. A couple of years ago, I'm having a conversation with my personal doctor during a visit, and I asked him, how much longer are you going to run the practice, and what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I have no idea. I don't know how to get out of this thing, and I don't know what I would do. And I started realizing that I'm hearing that in different versions from more and more people. So the question is, what are you going to do Monday morning after you sell your business? Is about personal value and influence and other things. And is there enough wealth to accomplish what mama wants me to do, right?
Yep.
And so you have to look at the idea of exit planning as a three-legged stool. Yeah, the business value is important. But if the business value is used by the buyer to strip your wealth out,
yeah,
then you got hosed. Number two, that completely influences and impacts your life after sale plan, doesn't it? So it's a both and or all three and kind of way to think about this. You have to look at all of them up front. And unfortunately, Mike, a lot of people they can't do it themselves. That's too complex. There's too many question marks to even begin trying to find an answer to, right?
Right.
So we've got those tools. We do this. I mean, been doing this for a long time. Is to be able to say, look, we have to assess this and this and this, and then we have to put all of those results into one big master picture before we think about which tactic we're going to use to accomplish this issue and that issue and this issue. Does that make sense?
I love it. So finally, Dan, what advice, and I know you've given a lot, right? And so what advice would you give a business owner who is just getting started thinking about their exit plan?
Call me. I don't bite. I haven't bitten anybody in weeks. Okay.
Weeks. Nice.
Weeks. Yeah. I got slapped last time. No, seriously, let's have a conversation about what you're thinking. I've been through this several times, right? Let's just say it that way.
Yep.
If we can then say, okay, you've got 11 elements, and 2 of them I would say you should focus on right away. And if they want to do it themselves, great. But let's get into a conversation and figure out where they stand. And part of that is we can give people sort of a preliminary valuation of their business. And here's why that's important. We'll go to a conference. We'll have my business in this booth and this business in this booth. And across the way is a guy who's just like me, and he's selling his business for X numbers. Mm-hmm. Same size, same industry. So I just assume, hearsay kind of number, I assume that's what I'm worth.
Yep.
And I start thinking that way, right? And then I go to the business broker and say, I'm worth $10 million. And he goes, really? Let's find out. And you go, what do you mean? This is what I think it's worth. No, you got to find out. And they put them through some math, and they come away with ugly baby syndrome. You are not worth 10 million. You're worth 2. and it depresses people, and they go back into the business and depress the business with their depression. Okay. And they take their $2 million business down to $750,000. And then mama finally gets tired and says, you're done. Go get a job at Walmart.
Yeah.
Okay. That's unfortunately a very real story. Or they take the first thing. I have a guy right now, several miles south of us, who has been running his automobile repair facility
Mm-hmm.
for probably about 25 years. And in the last year, either he said it or somebody said it, but all of a sudden he's getting people coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, I heard your business is for sale.
Oh, interesting.
And he and I ended up a conversation, and I said, so what do you want to do with it? He goes, I don't know which one to take. I said, you take none of them. Why? Well, just because they want to throw money at you, does that mean it's the right size of the check?
Yeah.
If Elon Musk walked into your business tomorrow, Mike, and said, I want to buy your practice, do you have a qualified number that you could give him and stand by and defend? Because you know he's going to.
I do.
Well, you do. I know you. But our listeners, a majority of them don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be critical. I'm saying to be matter of fact. If you can't, with a straight face, go, have a cup of coffee, sit down, I'll show you why I'm worth a little more than what you just offered me.
Yep.
If you can't do that, you need to be able to do that for your own self and for potentials in the future. And I'm going to pick on CPAs for just a second, microsecond. Your CPA giving you an EBITDA or SDE number that's this big so you don't pay taxes is not the value of your business. They're doing that to keep you from paying big taxes and supposedly keep you out of jail.
Yeah.
It's that simple. The buyer's going to look at that and go, well, you have all these extra expenses in here that I'm not going to be paying if I buy this thing.
Yeah.
What's the real number? And so the problem that we all have in trying to determine the future is not supposition or opinion or feeling. It's a 4-letter word called math.
When it's interesting you bring up CPAs, because I'll pick on them. I do all the time.
I know. That's why I stepped to say
right. And to your point, Dan, is that CPAs, most of them have never exited a business. Most of them are happy historians. They're always looking backwards. And like you pointed out, they just input numbers in boxes and maximize the tax efficiency.
Right.
It doesn't mean the value of the business is there. And there's all kinds of components as to how to balance that, which is a whole nother conversation. As I'm throwing my pen because CPAs
got you riled up, didn't it?
Man, it really does. I don't know why. I mean, look, CPAs are great, but when you get a good one, they're amazing. And I think a lot of business owners don't understand that either, Dan, is that a business owner can outgrow their current CPA.
Think about why that happens, Mike. I started this business in the garage. I got it out of the garage. I got it into a building. I hired these people. I'm doing this thing. I don't have time to vet these people. Yeah. I'm going to buy a commodity and they're going to do my taxes. I'm going to buy a commodity and they're going to do my estate plan. I'm going to buy a commodity and they're going to do this or that or whatever. Yep. They're not thinking strategically. And this gets us back to where we started. If we're focused on tactics all day, we don't have a strategy, and nobody wants to invest real money in a business that doesn't have a strategy. It's that simple.
I think you just came up with my next article that I'm going to research.
You're welcome. No,
on commodities on these professions. And look, we're as financial advisors, we're the same way. I mean, there's just over 1,600 financial advisors in Utah alone. And the question I always ask professionals, which a whole different conversation, is why should somebody choose me over somebody else? And I've actually asked clients that. Mm-hmm. And so instead of them asking me, why should I just give them the answer, right? Which goes into a whole different story. But we've taken enough of your time, Dan. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Dan's website and information are down below. If you have any questions, reach out to Dan. Please, this conversation is driven off of your questions. If you have any, leave them in the comments. We'll get to them, I promise. But until then, See you next Tuesday.